why don't we go ahead and go to John Punches from there? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you, and then we'll put this back up there in just a second.
Hey, everybody. John Punches. I'm a professor for Oregon State University and Extension Forester, and I do fire stuff primarily in northeastern Oregon.
Okay, how about Day?
Hi, everyone. Dave McKendrick. I am the Oregon Fire Partnership Specialist for the Nature Conservancy. Been in this role for a little over 3 months now.
Okay, great. Also not on our committee, but here helping today, and she just wrote in the chat, so I thought maybe I'd just prompt her to introduce herself as well. Shelby.
Hi, everyone. Shelby Berry. I am admin support for the policy and planning group. Great to see you all.
Thanks. Shelby's going to be taking notes. She's recording the meeting, and she'll provide a summary for us as well. Next up would be Colby.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Colby Drake. I'm with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and I'm our Natural Resource Department Manager. Thank you.
Colby. Next up would be Kenny Rose.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Kenny Rose, Justina Resources, Chief Forester, and I deal with all the wildland fire for our company.
Great, thanks, Kenny. We also have Katie McKendrick joining us today. They're going to be a little bit late, so we'll get them when they join us later. And then I believe that Amanda Astor Sullivan is not able to make it today, as I recall. So although we may see her, I'm not certain, but I did not get a confirmation from her, and I don't think she's here today. And then Mark Shea did indicate he's not available, so we don't have him here either. Okay, we have a lot of folks on today who are not part of the committee. We're not going to run through introductions for everyone, just the folks on the committee today. As a reminder, we'll have a public comment period, and maybe I'll go ahead and return to sharing my screen now so you can see what's on the agenda for today. So at that point, we will welcome comments from those who are not on the committee. Let's see here. So as I had said, I'll run through the agenda real quick so that we're all on the same page, and then I'll get started on the first agenda item. So already basically covered our welcome and introductions. I'm going to walk us through the website and some of the updates to that so folks can see what we've done and how we've changed it to reflect the development of our program. We'll have a 15-minute public comment period after that. And then we'll talk a bit about training providers and some of the curriculum that's been developed using our instructor guide. Take a quick break, and then we'll look a little more closely at the instructor guide to see how it turned out in the final form. Then we'll walk through the field certification books. Actually, I should say it's a book for both the certifications. And then we'll talk a little bit about some minor rule revisions and get input from the committee on that. And then we'll wrap it up with some updates on past and future course deliveries. We're in between a couple now with OSU, some legislative updates, and then where we're at with the development of prescribed fire policy for ODF. So with that, I will go ahead and take us to, let's see, the website. So here we are. Make it so I can see better here. All right, so here's the website. I don't know if any of you looked at it before we did a bunch of work on it, but
Amanda, we still see the agenda.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yep.
It didn't switch over to where I went, so let's make it switch with me. Thank you. All right. So a little blurb about the program. although, we developed a brochure in part because we realized that just putting text on a website wasn't really enough, and that we needed something that provided the information in a different visual format. So that's where the brochure comes into play. So hopefully this will all work for everybody. But this is what the brochure looks like. You just click on it and it brings it up. This was developed thanks to a partnership between the Oregon Prescribed Fire Council, Sustainable Northwest, and the Pacific Northwest, or the Northwest Fire Science Consortium. And they had money from Joint Fire Science Program. They originally wanted to do a case study on our program, and I asked that they instead pivot to doing this, because what we needed was a good tool for outreach, more so than a case study, which would be a lot more text, which is fine. But what people need is something that kind of explains to them this program in a more simplified fashion. So, it talks about what the program is, what it's for, how it works, and then what it sets you up for in terms of access to the Prescribed Fire Claims Fund, which I'll talk a bit more about later in the updates section. And then, just a few basics on what's required, what's prohibited, and how to apply, and some links as well. So that's the brochure. And then there's links to smoke management, as well as the rules, and then the committee page. There's also a link to Senate Bill 762. And then we link to the templates as well, which this group has been a part of vetting. Very appreciative for that. And so you can also sign up for email updates about the program here. And then we've added a section about training. So we've got 2 trainings up here. I'll actually need to go in and have this edited to pull out the one that just happened last week in Central Point. And then there's another one being delivered this week at PV Arboretum up at OSU. So we'll continue to update the website with trainings as they get scheduled. And I'll talk more about some of that later. And then we have the applications to become a CBM or to become a training provider. So pretty excited to have our website reflecting some of the developments in our program. If anybody sees anything they would like to alter or change or think needs to be different, we're always open to feedback about that. I've looked at other states' programs and their websites. And, it's funny because I always think other states maybe look better than ours because, you're seeing the grass is greener kind of effect. And then that happens when folks look at ours, they think ours is better than theirs. And I'll be, from the same state I just looked at. So, but, you can Google Certified Burn Manager programs. Usually they're called Certified Prescribed Burn Managers, CPBM in other states. But you can look that up and see how some of the other states present and provide resources to their programs. So with that, I think I'll just quickly open it up for some questions or comments from the committee, if anyone has any.
Amanda, just a comment. So having just completed a certified burn manager training program, the biggest question that we were getting from people is like, what's the next step? And so does OSU now send you information about those people who completed, and then you issue them their books, or do we issue that information to them and then they contact you when they feel like they're ready for the next step? So there's that kind of minutia. And then also just really like having some clarity for those candidates around what will be expected from those burns. So is it 3 burns? Is it 3 burns with them being the trainee burn managers? What specific roles? Maybe we'll get to that when we see the certification book, but those are the kind of questions we're getting. So just to kind of have you ponder that, just whenever you're ready, we'll convey that to students.
Yeah, that's great, John. This is the stuff that I was looking forward to, and just debriefing with you and Chris and others that delivered the training down there in Southern Oregon. And I'm tempted to launch right into some of this, but I'll hold back a little bit and just say that, just to quickly answer your questions, because we're going to talk more about training and curriculum and how the process works. The students are responsible for their certificate and bringing it to me along with documentation of burn experience, minimum 3 burns participating in, before they get a field certification book, at which point they need 3 burns that they have led with a CBM mentoring them and signing them off for things. So there's evaluation records in the training or in the certification book. I think there's 6 evaluation records in there at the bottom, but that's just so that if somebody who's doing the 3rd one says, they need another one, I'm not going to put my name on them, then they'll just have to get another one. So it's very similar to the way the position task book system works. And now, that said, training providers are required to keep records of students' participation and their passing score on the exam. So if I need verification, because say somebody gives me a certificate and I go, this doesn't look right. I don't think this was the template that they'd been using. And all the rest of the certificates I've got from OSU look this way, and this one's weird. Then I can go back to you and say, hey, did Joe Schmo take your training? Or no, there's no record of that. And then I can validate that. So the training providers are more validating than they are the primary source of information for me. So like if I ask you for your records of training, then I'll need you to be able to produce that. But it's up to the students coming to me with their certificates and the documentation of their experience for me to then issue the field certification book from that point.
Perfect. And so that may be, so you might consider whether that's information that could appear on this website. And just like having it all there in one package, just gets them to you to start with, and then that would give them the information about what those next steps are. So that would be awesome.
Cool.
But if you think there's a better spot for it, that's cool. Just like someplace in the process, they need that info.
Yeah, that's super helpful, because it's better than me explaining it over and over again in emails from folks as they reach out to me with their training completed. A lot of this is a process of adaptive management, where we learn as we go and then we adjust and alter slightly, not significantly, because we have a lot of rule and statute to which we must refer, but yeah, we can make changes on the fly as we go to improve. So this kind of feedback is super helpful and important. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, Amanda, I just had a kind of a follow-up question. Thanks, John, for bringing some of that up. Those were kind of the areas I was going with too, was, yeah, just that kind of concept of, if we had a burn maybe out here in Grand Ronde and we had a lot of community members present, they're not leading it, but they're participating. Those would still classify as, participating for those 3 before they start getting in there. Because that's kind of what Grand Ronde's been thinking a lot in that direction of getting initiated, getting participating, kind of no pun intended, but catch that bug, that fire bug, and start moving forward from that process. And yeah, just working through that and making sure that, yeah, we're meeting the 3 prior before they start doing the actual leading of the burns. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that that whole process was laid out here. And it's really close, I think. And, yeah.
And I should probably mention that 3 burn requirement is something that we decided to do in alignment with what's required to become a CBM. You have to do 3 training burns, but we didn't identify what kind of prerequisite experience was required in the field. And we really want to make this clear. It's not an entry-level program. It's meant to take people from burn participation to burn leadership.
Yeah.
And so I came up with 3 because I just wanted to match it up with what we require for training. It'd be great if there was more. But to that end, the field certification book has, I think, 41 tasks in it. And we'll probably add to that, I'm guessing. And that might seem like a lot, but that's where we catch things before somebody is released out into the world to lead burns on their own, right? They have to do all these tasks and learn. And, you know, when looking at some of these other programs in other states, there's often a heavy reliance on the NWCG training system for basic firefighter, which I think is a great foundation for this program, but that it becomes the training. And then that's what catches things, you know, that you don't want to have falling through. If we're going to use like a Swiss cheese type model, you know, how do we close up all those holes? Well, what we're focusing on is the quality of the experience of the trainee in the classroom and the field. So not all CBM programs require like 3 solid days in the classroom, you know, but we require that. Not all CBM programs require 3 burns with a list of tasks to complete. The Washington system has 10 boxes to check, and it can be on 1 burn, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just the approach they've taken. But, you know, the way we've approached this is more in taking people who maybe have less experience and building their experience up through the training and the field certification process. So hopefully that makes sense to folks.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's kind of what we were thinking too, is yeah, we're not trying to turn just people loose out there burning, but yeah, participating and having this is the path to get people to that opportunity where they don't have to go and do 10, 15 years of suppression effort and working through that. So no, that's our take on it from our community right now. So yeah, thank you, Amanda.
No, that's great. So is there anything else?
Yeah, I would add a thought that has come from talking with folks, and it builds on what Colby was sharing, in that becoming a certified pile burning boss or a pile burn manager could be a first step for folks to learn more on that path to being a certified burn manager. So I'm wondering if it could be helpful on the website to have a couple sentences descriptor of the difference between a pile burn manager and a broadcast understory burn manager, because there are people out there who are at that level of understanding and would benefit from the differentiation of those two and the opportunity through this program to learn more at that level.
Yeah, that's helpful, Dave. Thank you. So I'm hearing there that we need to maybe clarify a little more on the website, the difference between the 2 certifications. I think that there could be a gentle sort of nudge towards, if you're not ready for broadcasts, try pile, right? And I think that naturally is happening for a lot of folks because they're aware that they have the pile burn experience and they don't have broadcast burn experience, unfortunately. So by default, some folks are ending up coming in just through that that portal because they can't really make it through the other. But maybe that could be a way to get people more interested in doing that if they think they really want to do the broadcast, but they can't, not having them feel like they just can't do it because they could do that instead. And I think that's a great way to train too. So yeah, I'm going to think more on that. I might follow up with you on thoughts to how to wordsmith or present that information. This is great discussion. So appreciative for the thoughts here. Are there others that folks have they want to chime in? I see Daniel Dyer's here. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself really quick as one of our federal ex officio members.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name's Daniel Dyer. I'm the regional fuel specialist for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and my region is Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Western Montana. And I'm kind of responsible for overseeing the Bureau of Indian Affairs hazardous fuels reduction program in with the tribes in those four states. So, of course, interested in seeing how prescribed fire is taken care of on the I guess I should say civilian side or non-federal side of things. And we're, as most tribes have a hybrid type of program and their own ways of doing things, we like to keep our hand in on what's happening in the prescribed fire world. So glad everyone's here discussing this. It's really important. And I guess looking down the line, at least from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we're always interested in collaboration between different entities, whether they're private or federal. So again, looking forward to everybody's thoughts and contributing to the conversation. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm a little concerned because I got a message saying that this meeting was going to end despite that I have a Zoom account through ODF. So I'm going to work in the background here for a minute with my folks to figure that out. And hang tight. Also, we have Katie Sauerbrei. Katie, why don't you introduce yourself real quick while I work on this?
Yeah, good morning. Apologies, I'm in a public space, so the ambient noise in the background may be a little distracting, but my name is Katie Sauerbrei, and I wear a couple of hats, but in my day job, I'm the fire program director for the Nature Conservancy in Oregon. The other hat is the chair of the Oregon Prescribed Fire Council. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Katie. Much appreciated. So what I'm going to tell y'all is that we're going to figure out a link and we're going to provide it here in the chat somehow to reroute ourselves as needed if the meeting gets ended. So stay tuned for that. Sorry for a little bit of a pivot while we're working on that, but this is very much unanticipated. In the meantime, hold on, I'm going to get back into the agenda really quick. It actually, we're over time for public comment anyways, so let's go ahead and get that piece done, and hopefully we will not have it end in the middle of that. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment for anyone who wants to go ahead. All right, last call. Anyone have any comments to provide for public comment?
Hi, Amanda. This is Andrew, Grand Ron Tribes.
Hey, Andrew, what you
Hey,
got?
I just had a quick comment and suggestion. You mentioned that the task books would be under the supervision of a certified burn manager or mentorship. And I was wondering if you'll have a list or provide some sort of list for folks that are seeking certified burn manager um, so that they can seek mentorship. Most of us know each other, but I'm guessing that there's people out there that will need to seek mentorship if that's a requirement. That's all I had.
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew. So one of the things the Oregon Prescribed Fire Council is working on, which actually Katie could probably speak to a bit here, because of their role as the chair, is doing some networking to that end. Do you want to chime in here, Katie, so I'm not talking the whole time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Oregon Prescribed Fire Council, Andrew identified the same kind of specific need to be able to connect those trainees with the kind of grand personed in certified burn managers. And so one of our priorities in our strategic plan this year is to scope and develop a networking platform where folks can hop on and either volunteer to host mentees or can raise their hand and say, hey, I need to be paired with a mentor in my region. I can't give you a precise timeline on when something like that will be available. We just hired an intern to help us start developing what that's going to look like. But ideally, by the end of this year, we'll have some sort of platform where folks can connect with each other for that purpose.
Sounds great. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a bunch, Katie. John, go ahead.
They're just going to say that in the interim, while we're waiting for Prescribed Fire Council to be able to develop that capacity, for the trainings that OSU is leading, we're going to try to do some of that internal with our students. It's going to be a big job. We had 29 people go through it down in Southern Oregon, and we're going to have another 8 this coming week. So there's already a big batch of people that need those multiple experiences. So we're going to put together some sort of communication for those folks to kind of tend to the people we've trained to the best, but there's no way that we'll be able to provide that number of training opportunities ourselves. So we're really going to have to look for that bigger opportunity. So we told students that, like, the closer you are, the more experience you have, the more likely we are to get you into these opportunities where you can get the mentored opportunities to get signed off on a certification book, so we can kind of finish that off. And other folks then will include them in those trainings, but just not in those lead roles, but they can get firing, they can get holding experience, they can do other aspects of that. So we can continue to build the experience of the cadre. But there's a lot out there. There's a lot of demand. It's kind of crazy. It's great, but it's going to be a big workload for all of us that are going to do that mentoring.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. And yeah, I would just say that most generally, the way the program was set up was to try to create this sort of successional pathway using folks who already have experience. But as the program moves on, it's going to become more complex. And a lot of effort's going to have to go into figuring out how to organize folks to that end. Some of it's going to be formal, some of it's going to be informal. Okay, so sorry, I've got some updates for our meeting really quick here that I'm going to share before we all get kicked out, which hopefully it won't happen. So I put in the chat the link to where we will go if we get kicked out of here. So please copy that link before the meeting gets ended, so that you have it, because that's where we're going to go after this. Unless it was just a fluke thing and I got a message that isn't actually going to take effect, which I kind of hope that's the case, so we don't all have to move. All right.
Amanda, just so you know, we all have the same message time remaining 2 minutes. So it probably isn't just you.
Oh, okay. Well, you all have the same. Oh, I see that at the time, remaining meeting time. Yeah. Bizarre. Okay. Well, why don't we just all go ahead and move to our new location now before the meeting is ended for us? And I'll see you guys over there. And thank you so much for being flexible.